In the middle of the Indian Ocean lies a small island similar in size to Luxembourg. It is a place known for its stunning beaches, crystal clear waters, and diverse cultural scene. The Republic of Mauritius is a hotspot for luxury tourism. One of the island's most overlooked aspects in the modern era is its amazing biodiversity and the organisms that once called this island home. Islands are known for their biological isolation and high rates of species endemism. Mauritius was and is no exception to this rule, so today we shall discuss some of the unique wildlife that once called the island home. From multiple species of giant tortoise to a pigeon the size of a turkey, these are some of the amazing animals from Mauritius 8,000 years ago. The island of Mauritius is located over 900 kilometers east of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. Mauritius is a small island, being about half the size of Rhode Island, so its climate is homogeneous across the landmass. The island's climate is mildly tropical and maritime, with two seasons, the wet season in the summer and the dry season in the winter. The island's environments are similar to a real lost world, with lush forests, coral reefs, verdant plains, and rugged mountainous regions. In these habitats live 691 species of plant, of which 273 are endemic to Mauritius, found nowhere else on Earth. Mauritius was first discovered by the Arabians in the late 10th century and it was named Dina Arobi. The first Westerners to arrive on Mauritius were the Portuguese who arrived on the island in 1507 and they called it Ilha do Cine, meaning Island of the Swan. They set up a visiting base but were uninterested in staying for longer. The first people to set up a permanent settlement on Mauritius were the Dutch, who settled the island in 1598 and created permanent settlements some 4 decades later. Mauritius was named after Prince Maurice of Orange, and it was officially known as Dutch Mauritius. This was a nation from 1638 to 1710. Interestingly, in 1602, long-tailed macaques were introduced onto the island and by 1710 they had forced settlers off the island, leading to Mauritius being nicknamed the Island of Monkeys. Now that we've talked about the context of Mauritius and some of its history of colonisation, let's discuss the interesting facts about its once diverse inhabitants. Starting off with the reptiles, Mauritius is home to 16 endemic species. These include the critically endangered Bouguere's skink, the vulnerable serpent island gecko, and the also vulnerable lesser island gecko. There was, however, a much larger extinct species of skink, the Mauritian giant skink. This species grew up to 80 centimetres long, and it was likely omnivorous, similar to the Australian blue tongue. Mauritius wasn't only home to skinks and geckos, however, as on the nearby Round Island, there were two species of boa. One, the Round Island boa, is still extant, with a population in excess of 1,000 individuals. The extinct species is the Round Island burrowing boa, a species that was last sighted in 1974. The only real difference between the two species was that the burrowing boa was capable of burrowing and digging, though it preferred the same forest habitat as its still extant relative. The mainland was also home to giant tortoises, with two species inhabiting the jungles and lowlands, the domed Mauritian giant tortoise and the saddle-backed Mauritian giant tortoise. Though giant tortoises do still exist in the Galapagos and Seychelles, the lineage these tortoises belong to are not. Both species were related to three other mascarene species of giant tortoise, all of which were in the same genus. Their closest living relatives are various species of nearby African tortoise. With the exception of non-native mammals, all species of mammal on Mauritius are bats. The Rodriguez flying fox, the Mauritian flying fox, and the Mauritian tomb bats are native to Mauritius, with the Mauritian flying fox being endemic to the island. The Mauritian flying fox once called Reunion home as well, but it went extinct on Reunion between 1772 and 1801. Though there is a chance it's since recolonised the island from Mauritius. There was another, smaller species of bat found on Mauritius known as the small Mauritian flying fox, but this species went extinct in the late 19th century between 1864 and 1873. Until about 160 years ago, these bats were abundant on Mauritius and Reunion, sometimes forming groups of 400 in shelters such as caves. Historically, among the most diverse groups of fauna on the island of Mauritius were avians, or birds. 28 living bird species are endemic to Mauritius, being found nowhere else on Earth, while 11 species are already extinct. Probably the most iconic animal in Mauritian history is the dodo, scientifically known as Rhesus cucullatus. Dodos were first encountered by the Dutch in 1598, and it had a long history with settlers before its extinction. We now know that this bird could reach up to 18 kilograms in mass, with a height of just under a metre. This makes the dodo about the size of a large trumpeter swan, though unlike waterfowl, the dodo was flightless. From specimens being transported aboard ships to Europe and Asia to the long debated taxonomy of this bird, the dodo has many debates and fascinating mysteries associated with it. This is because invasive species and human hunting led to the dodos becoming increasingly rare before their extinction, and only a handful of remains have ever been obtained. Today, several skulls, skeletons, feet, and heads serve as the only physical evidence of this bird's existence. Many believed this bird was a myth and extinction wasn't possible, so its extinction wasn't realised until 2 centuries after it died out in the 19th century. The most agreed upon extinction date for the dodo is around 1662, 64 years after its discovery. The dodo was actually a giant flightless pigeon of all things, closely related to the Nicobar and crown-tailed pigeons, along with the extinct Rodriguez solitaire. Originally, several birds were suggested to be relatives of the dodo, from ostriches to rails and even penguins. Dodos weren't the only unique birds endemic to Mauritius, with other extinct birds including the red rail, Mauritian night heron, Mauritian blue dove, Mauritian scops owl, mascarene teal, and countless more. Following the arrival of the Dutch settlers to Mauritius, there were multiple waves of extinction among the island's native fauna. The dodo, Mauritian giant skink, and red rail are three of the species to go extinct in the 17th century. The saddle-backed Mauritian giant tortoise went extinct in the 18th century, and the Mauritian flying fox and Mauritian blue pigeons disappeared in the 19th century. Clearly, unlike with Cuba, the unique fauna of Mauritius survived until much more recently than 8,000 years ago, and the same species in this video could appear in a 500-year-ago documentary. Thank you all very much for watching this video on the extinct and some of the extant Mauritian fauna. If you want to see more videos exploring our planet's recent past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on what video you'd like to see next. Have a fantastic day.